Hi, welcome to our latest episode of Voices in Veterinary here at Xoran Technologies. I'm Laura Dennis, and today I'm so excited to have our next guest, David Sarment, who is a periodontist and Xoran's president, and really heads up our veterinary market and helps with our veterinarians when we have our installations for our VetCat and our Vtrons. Thank you, David, for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks, Laura, for having me.
Yeah. So like we always do, we're going to start off with our 5 questions and then just see where it takes us. First question is, what makes you so passionate about working in veterinary?
You know, I'm passionate about working with veterinarians because they're passionate. Frankly, I didn't know anything about veterinary until we got basically a request from one of our veterinarians who said, you know, he wanted to have a CT scan in his office. That's how it all got started. And from the first call, it became evident that he and the others were completely passionate about what they do. They show up in the morning and they are completely into what they do, and that really grew on me completely. In fact, the best example I have of it is once I helped one of the veterinarians sort of set up with a VetCat, and I was in the office early in the morning before she arrived, and when she first walked in, the first thing she did is she sat on the floor and took care of her patients who were right there for about 20 minutes. She didn't even notice I was there for the longest percent of that, and I thought that was really quite amazing, and it really demonstrated to me how passionate those folks are, and it's quite impressive to see how much they use the CT scans we're able to provide to them.
Yes, I agreed. And so what trends are you seeing in hospitals?
Well, there is a sense of having larger corporations now take over some smaller offices or some small chains of offices, and it's certainly growing and going that way. So it's becoming a bit more maybe competitive because of that, because there are some larger players that are coming into place.
I have seen that trend too, and it's very interesting to see that process take place in the veterinary office because a lot of times veterinarians just want to get back to treating their patients. They don't want to deal with hiring and forms and all of the other back office rigmarole that you have to go through when you're running your own business. And I'm seeing also related to that, these hospitals are in growth mode, right? So many people are opening up new facilities, new locations. They can't keep up with the demand. I mean, what's your take on that? Like, what's your take on where this is going post-pandemic, whatever we want to call it?
Laura, it's interesting. They're certainly growing. There's a high demand. I think the last couple of years have actually been very significant. It's a huge change because folks have more dogs and cats at home, and we all want to take good care of our animals. They're part of our family. I have my dog at home, and I just ran at home to go make sure that she's okay, and feed her for lunch and so on. So we're all completely passionate about animals, and more importantly, the veterinarians are getting more tools. Yeah. They're being able to treat them better as well. By the same token, they're short-staffed. They're having a hard time to get good staff, and veterinarians themselves are short-handed. And the ability to do 3D imaging through what we provide helps them be more precise, faster, diagnose the patients fully, know exactly what's going on. And at the end of the day, they actually can go back to their patients faster.
It's such a huge plus in the clinic that we're seeing happening in real time each week. The scanner arrives, and yesterday I couldn't scan, and today I can. I've got these pets all scheduled, and the ability to have these incidental findings was also something that I'm hearing more and more often. Like I intended to do this scan, but then I found these other things, and it really helps with that care decision-making process with the client.
Yeah, it resonates with me very much because I'm a periodontist. Yeah. And when I was a resident, we didn't have CT. We could send patients to the hospital for CT, and it was complex, just like veterinarians have it now. And a typical surgery would be, say we were doing a sinus augmentation or such, we'd go in the operating room, we'd start the surgery, never knowing if it was going to take 20 minutes or 2 hours. And sometimes we had to call a senior, resident to come help us because we know we were now discovering the anatomy or the pathology right there on the fly. Go forward a few years, once we had cone beam CT in our offices, all of us now at this point have it. It's a completely different story. There was no such thing as wondering what you're going to find out on your patient. You know exactly what you're going to find out. And the only thing you have to worry about is how quickly can I get my surgery done.
Yep.
It's better for the patients, healing is better, it's completely predictable, and you know that if you schedule 50 minutes for your surgery, it's going to be 50 minutes.
Right.
And that really is peace of mind for yourself. You can see more patients, your staff is more organized.
Yep.
You know that if you have to go home and there is a soccer practice at 6, you will make it.
Yeah.
Every single day. Everything becomes predictable. It's a lot more peaceful.
That's that quality of life that it goes back to for the veterinarians. And I think that I'm really excited seeing how that progresses over the next 5-10 years, just like it did in periodontics. I won't say the numbers of years ago.
Some time ago, yes.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, which is, what are the most important issues hospitals will face this year, 2022?
Well, I think they still are going to face shortage of staff. I think that is not going to go away very quickly. It probably will start to settle a bit more. I also see that they need to be able to find a time to train their staff well and being highly trained. And I think training is critical. In fact, we realized by having so many CT scans in veterinary offices now that because we play such a big role in their training, that we really need to train the veterinarians very well, but also the rest of the team. And that is very much a team approach throughout the office, so that the device and the outcome of what it produces, sort of helps everybody in the office.
Agreed. It makes it easier to get the patient positioning complete, get the scan done right the first time. It reduces anesthesia time, which is a very important in any veterinary hospital where you especially with smaller animals you want to avoid long anesthesia times. And then the staff just feel more empowered to use the CT and to try to diagnose more and see more.
Yeah, exactly. And also, especially this year, I think we're going to see probably more as the economy changes and settles, and people are sort of coming back to the real normal sort of cycle of life. We're going to see what was there before, meaning that the owners will come in the office and they want to get things done too. They don't want to run to another facility, another specialty office just for the imaging, only to come back later. It's complicated. So being able to completely provide the full diagnosis right there in real time as quickly as possible, avoid another general anesthesia is huge. Yeah,
agreed. So many of our Xoran colleagues who are pet parents are so passionate and understand the value of our technology. They're running out and they're talking to their veterinarians. They're like, this is good. Then it's so easy, even for them, if they're not even in our technical aspects, that they understand that this is easier for pets, easier for clients, and they get passionate about it too. So it's kind of fun to see.
There's another aspect of this, and that's the understanding. I think as pet parents, we want to know, just like for ourselves. So if there is disease, it's difficult to understand. A lot of pathologies are tricky to understand. Well, if you have 3D and you can produce just one image and show it to the pet parents, now they understand, they get it, they know why they're here, they know why the costs for this procedure. They better understand. Everything becomes very clear. Yeah,
it really facilitates those approvals. It's really fascinating. So that leads me to my next question, which is, who are you the guardian of?
Well, I left my phone outside for a few minutes, and I can't wait to get back to it because the veterinarians who I know them all, and I feel very close to all of them. And they call, and I'm always kind of feel like I want to help them all the time. So I don't know if there's one person, but I feel like it's extending family all the time. I know it's, it is a point where it's a really big family.
Oh,
But I love it that way, and I feel like I'm sort of the guardian of all of those veterinarians who were able to, use our machine because they do it so much.
that is true. They do. David is constantly stepping out of meetings in a very good way because someone, needs some assistance with a CT scan. What am I seeing? What can, what's happening? Just getting some advisory look during surgeries, and it's really fascinating. Can you tell us about your pet?
Yeah, so I have lots of various passions, but you're talking about my pet, like my dog?
Yes. Not your pet project or your
Because I have
airplane. I
all
know we've got a lot of like your animal. Yes.
We have a wonderful dog. It's kind of a funny story because it started, she's a Bellington Terrier, just over a year old. And it all started by us taking care of one of my daughter's friend's dog who stayed at home for a couple of weeks. So
Okay.
the dog stayed at home. And by the time we had to, that young lady came back to pick up her dog, everybody in the house was ready to have also a Bellington Terrier at home. So that's how we got started.
Okay.
So in some ways, I'm glad it was not just one dog and not, maybe with so. But she's the super friendly, bubbly, goofy dog, and she's just completely part of the family. So
And what's her name?
Her name is Coquelicot, which means which is puppy in English, but I call her Coquelicot because I like it in French. Coquelicot, it's puppy.
Like
Puppy.
puppy in
Puppy,
French.
yes.
Okay, that's not a word that I learned in my French studies.
It's a little tough word. It's the flower Coquelicot. Yes,
Okay, like a poppy flower?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Poppy flower, Coquelicot.
Okay.
So now everybody, you learned a French word. That's
Yes.
an unusual word.
I always like, thank you, David, for doing this interview in English. We appreciate you. And then finally, our last question for today is, what is your craziest veterinary office story? Do you have a crazy story?
Yes, I do have probably more than one, but I'll share one with you, and the person who, I'm not going to mention her name, but she will recognize herself if she
Okay.
listens to this.
Okay.
It's now about 3 years ago. Yes, more than 3 years ago. I promised her that I would go train her when she would get the machine. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go. It was on the other side of the country, and I could never make it there. And I said, look, I don't do this. If I said I would do something, I do it. But I had, unfortunately, circumstances, and I just couldn't make it there. So I said, instead of this, we're going to spend 10 to 15 minutes per week together on the phone for as long as it takes.
Okay.
Well, it might sound a little crazy, but we're still doing it. We had our phone call today, and every week for the last 3 years, and I think we only missed maybe 1 or 2 at the most, all 3 years we've been on the phone together, looking at cases. This is very serious.
Yes.
We look at 1, 2, or 3 cases every week for 10 to 15 minutes for the past 3 years.
Wow, that is amazing. This is such a fun story. Yeah, it's really fascinating to see how you've gravitated towards this, and how the industry, the members of our veterinary community have gravitated right back towards you. It's really it's very special to see. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on our Voices in Veterinary podcast, and we hope that we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks.